Hello and welcome to our virtual presentation looking at Key Stage 4 Information Evening. Tonight's presentation is aimed at Year 10 and 11 students who've started or are completing their GCSEs, and I'm just going to start by showing you a short video. In tonight's presentation, you are going to hear a talk from Mr. Harvey, the head of maths. You are going to hear a talk from Mr. Jukes, the head of English, and Dr. Penwell, the head of science. You're also going to hear a presentation by Mr. Chapman, who is going to talk as the head of Year 11 about exam stress and well-being. So, enjoy.
My name is Mr. Harvey, and I'm the head of maths here at St Cuthbert Main School. I'm going to take a moment to go through the new curriculum for your maths department and changes that you got for your child coming in and working through to GCSE. The new maths curriculum, I've designed a new maths curriculum for the school, and it's based on AQA rather than the old Edexcel. So if you have prior students who've come through the school, please make sure they're using the AQA syllabus rather than the Edexcel syllabus. AQA consists of 3 papers. Each one is equal weighting, and you can either do a higher or a foundation level. The exam consists now of 1 non-calculator and 2 calculator papers. They all have equal weightings, and they take 1.5 hours per paper. Generally, students find the non-calculator paper the most challenging. However, if you do not own a calculator, the other 2 papers are extremely difficult, so I would recommend you buy yourselves a calculator as soon as possible and learn how to work it. The foundation tier ranges now from a level 1 to a level 5. As you can see, it used to be a C to G range, and level 5 is now harder or higher than the old C grade. However, in order to get a level 5, there's a lot of difficult work, and you need to be getting 80% or more on the paper. Each paper consists of 4 multiple choice questions. This is different from the Edexcel syllabus. These questions are graded in difficulty and are only worth 1 mark each. It is recommended that students do not spend a lot of time focusing on the multiple choice questions, as they can lose valuable marks later on in the exam. The higher tier goes from level 9 down to level 4. Level 9 is significantly harder than the old GCSE, with a lot of A-level content in it. The problem with the higher tier exam is if you go below a level 4, you get a U grade or ungraded. Thus, by Easter, we really need to be sure what level the students are entered at, and we could be doing last-minute changes in tier from higher to foundation to ensure all students get a grade. I've completely redesigned the Key Stage 4 scheme of work. Each one looks the same, and they're all available on the school website, so you can see exactly where the students are at any week throughout the year. Full details of the scheme work is also available if you need, and we have textbooks supporting it. Furthermore, I've now put links in across the curricula, for example, maths and science. So as I teach key elements in the science and maths curriculum, we've made those questions in both areas. Standard form, for example, we talk about units, space and time, which they use in science as well. So the maths is mirrored to show the students how maths in real life works, maths in context. Homework consists of 3 different sections: a compulsory section, which all students must complete 100% of, and 2 optional sections. Completing the compulsory and 1 optional section has been shown to improve students' abilities by up to 6 months. Excellent for catch-up should any student not be able to attend school. We support Sparks homework with 2 after-school sessions on a Monday and a Tuesday. All students are welcome, and currently we run 3 separate rooms which link to the 3 bubbles the school have implemented. The whole of the maths is underpinned by regular challenge, assessment, therapy and diagnostic. We have tests every 6 weeks to make sure that students are really working to achieve their potential. If there are areas that students can't do, they come up on personal learning checklists, so each student knows exactly what they need to do to improve themselves. We want to do everything possible with your support to help these students to achieve the best they can in mathematics at St Cuthbert Main. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Mr Jukes, the Head of English and Media Studies at St Cuthbert Main. Welcome to Key Stage 4 and your English GCSEs. This video is for students in Year 10 and their parents to learn what you can do to make the next 2 years of English study as successful and rewarding as possible. The first thing you should know is how much work English GCSEs take. I've lost count of the number of times a student has said you can't revise for English, but if you look through all the knowledge that this literature question requires, you'll recognise exactly how much learning there is to do between now and next June's exams. What we've already covered since September will need to be revised and practised and not forgotten. We study English for an average of 4.5 hours a week at St Cuthbert Main, and that's because we are preparing for 2 separate GCSEs, English Language and English Literature. Unlike subjects like maths, neither of these exams are tiered. Students are not split into higher or foundation exams, and every one of them will attempt the exact same tasks. Here we see the broad content of the exams which make up the 2 GCSEs. The Literature GCSE allows us to choose some of the content for the units, and these are the titles our school has chosen to study. Hopefully by now you will be aware of the current grading system at GCSE, following the 9-to-1 grades rather than A star to G. Nothing has changed here in the past couple of years. As far as target grades go, each student has their own individual grades to reach, and that will represent success for them. As far as target grades go, each student has their own individual grade to reach, and that will represent success for them. At St Cuthbert Main, we will focus on every single student making improvements, regardless of their target, and not stop at glass ceilings of any particular grade. The higher our students achieve, the better for them. So why would we stop at, for example, a college's entry requirements? There are many ways outside of normal English lessons in which the English team will support our students, including those you see here. The important thing everyone needs to recognise is that none of these support methods work without student engagement and commitment. At home, the best support parents and carers can offer is active encouragement. Discuss English lessons and work with your child to gain a clear understanding of what they are engaged with in their English lessons. Help to organise and structure home learning time so that daily independent tasks, such as the Knowledge Organiser, are completed at the same time in the same place each day. This reliable routine building is essential to developing habits in your child that will help them prepare successfully. Of course, so much of the English GCSEs are reading focused, with comprehension, analytical, critical approaches to texts featuring regularly in our lessons. This means that students benefit from having a range of basic equipment and stationery to use, helping their work and ideas stay organised. So the items shown here are what your child needs on a daily basis if they are to make the most of their best revision resource, which will be their own exercise books. Finally, I return to the idea of revising for English exams. It may seem early to begin thinking about this so many months before the exams, but the best prepared students will be the most successful students and the happiest students on results day. These ideas you're looking at now are what we recommend to begin during the course and not at the end of it. And as a wise man once said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Best of luck to all our new English students at Key Stage 4.
Hello, my name's Dr. Lindsay Penwell and I am here to discuss the structure of the new science exam, to talk you through any changes which have happened and to give you our best tips for success in the summer. As well as the change in grading system from a lettered grading system to a numbered grading system, GCSE Science has undergone a number of other changes. The first of these changes is that the coursework element has been removed. Now 100% of the marks are available through examination. During their GCSE journey, the students have undergone a number of required practicals. During the examination, they will be asked about the techniques that they used during these practicals, and 15% of the marks are allocated to this. Students are expected to be able to analyse data and display that data using more maths techniques than they were previously. The final major change to the GCSE is that now students are required to learn, recall and apply 21 physics equations during the examinations. These changes have undoubtedly made the GCSE assessment more demanding than previously. If a student is taking double science, they will take 6 written papers, which are 1 hour and 15 minutes each. 2 of those papers are biology based, 2 chemistry and 2 physics. At the end of these 6 papers, they will receive 2 grades. If a student takes triple science, they will also take 6 written papers. However, they are 1 hour and 45 minutes each to allow for the extra content that these students have learnt. At the end of this, they will receive 3 grades. They will receive 1 for biology, 1 for chemistry, and 1 for physics. There are a mixture of questions. There are maths questions, there are multiple choice questions, there are a number of longer answer questions. This slide shows us the content of each of the 3 subjects. Each module is a different length, which allows for the fact that chemistry has a number of modules more than biology and physics. Each of these modules can be found on BBC Bitesize, can be found in revision guides, and can be found in the topics that the students have learnt. We now say that students should aim for a grade 4 to 5. A grade 4 is what is expected now as the old grade C for a lot of college courses. However, if a student is keen to take science to a further level, to explore it at A level, we would expect at St Cuthbert Main to be taking students with grade 6s if they really want to succeed at A level. If they want to take BTEC science, which is less demanding assessment wise, as much of the assessment comes from more courseworky type options, we will consider students with a grade 4 or a grade 5. During their time studying GCSE science at St Cuthbert Main, students are given a learning journey at the beginning of each topic. This means that before they study the topic, they know what they need to know. It also means at the end of the topic, they are able to see what they should have learnt and rate themselves based on what they know. We ensure that all students are given the opportunity to master the basics before we move on. We teach the GCSE in such a way that they are learning the topics in year 9, which are the basics, before they move on to the more demanding topics in years 10 and 11. On Parent Pay, we have revision guides available, which are at a reduced rate. So your child, if you are not sure, can ask their teacher and they will direct them to the correct revision guide. At the end of every single module, we assess and we spend time after the assessment going through the content and for each individual student highlighting areas where they could do extra work. After half term, there will be revision sessions. It would be really great if you could support attendance at revision sessions and purchase the revision guide if you are not eligible for one in another way. Really support the learning of the physics equations and the other core knowledge. At the beginning of every single session, we give the students 5 recall questions, which may be about the module they're learning, maybe about a different module. All of these recall questions are available on the Google Classroom, the code which is written below. So you can go on there, look at those questions and use them as quiz questions at any time. You could also ensure that students have the correct equipment. On the next slide, I've got a list of essential equipment, and a calculator is really vital, especially for higher level students who cannot do the more difficult calculations using standard form without a scientific calculator. It is really vital that students get used to using the scientific calculator. If they use a scientific calculator in a lesson which isn't the one they're going to use in their exam, the buttons may be in a different place, they may not be able to use it with the same efficiency as they would have done if they'd been using it for a longer period of time. I have written down here a list of resources which we think are really great. So the first one is Seneca. Students should have an account on Seneca, and if they don't, they can log on and sign up for one for free. Once they have done that, they need to join the classroom code, which I have written down there, and every single week there will be a revision assignment for students to do, which will help them recall the information they learnt quite a long time ago. Coupled to this, we have our Google Classroom. The code is also written there, which they can go on and access all of the material that we have learnt this year. Other resources that I think are really brilliant, BBC Bitesize. There are, at the end of every single unit on BBC Bitesize, there's a quick multiple choice test, which will help students identify areas of immediate weakness. And if you go on YouTube and search for My GCSE Science, there is a man who does very good videos, very informative videos about all of the topics, and it is specific to the AQA exam board that the students are studying. So it is a really good resource, and I know that a lot of students find him really boring, but he is very informative as well.
Hello Year 10 and Year 11 parents. For those who don't know me, my name's Mr. Chapman and I am the head of Year 11. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking to you about how you can support your child through their GCSEs, but particularly through their exams at the end of that, making reference to things like how we can combat stress, how we can revise effectively using different techniques, and more generally how you can support with their well-being. Now, I'm going to present this through my top 5 tips, but I want you to be aware that I haven't just plucked those tips out of the sky. We're actually looking as a school into lots of different revision strategies, different techniques, different research that's been done. And we're focusing, I've taken a lot from this book here, which is written by Tim Foote, and he is someone that has, really written, as you can see, a book particularly about how parents can support. Now, we as a school have invested, and we think this book is worth you having a copy of, because it's got so much information in a really digestible way. So we have bought a copy for every year 10 and 11. So over from November through to the end of that half term, we'll be distributing those out to your child. Now, my first tip I have titled Mr. Motivator. Now, I'm sure a challenge you have at home and a challenge we will sometimes experience as a school is how to motivate teenagers. Sometimes I think if they come home, I'm sure you'll be lucky maybe to get a couple of grunts about how their day has been. But that motivation is really important, and it will get them through and keep them going through this tricky time. The best way, or certainly one of the ways to motivate your child through their GCSEs is by taking an interest. Even if you don't get a lot back, by asking them how their day's been, what they've been learning today, what are you currently doing in English, for example, is a really good way of showing that something is important, that you care enough about something that you're willing to ask. And recognizing the importance of their GCSEs is also something that you can really help with. So we hear as a school sometimes, and I'm sure you hear it at home, when your child might say, well, I don't need that subject, I don't want to do that when I'm older, I'm going to do something else, I want to do a different career, go and do a different course. But actually, coming out of school with a huge variety of different good GCSE qualifications is what's important for going to sixth form, going to universities, starting careers. So please help us with explicitly telling them how important their subjects are. Incentives and rewards is another fantastic way to motivate children. So using, even if it's little incentives through the revision period. So once your child's done a couple of hours of revision, they get this treat, they get this extra time to do something that they enjoy. Or we could be talking about rewards at the end, after everything's over, a big reward that students can work towards. Maybe that reward can be as simple as books can be put down and students can then enjoy the summer, because the end is near. And I think it's important for your child's well-being to know that revision period, that intense revision period, is something that is temporary. It's not something for the rest of their lives. They can look forward to finishing that and enjoying their summer before they pick the books up again at sixth form. So my tip number 2, I've called the early bird. Now, it's never too soon to start revision. I've talked to my Year 11s this year about starting revision as soon as possible. The reason why isn't always about getting as many months in before the exams to go over content. It's also about getting that feeling of dread out the way. Now, the best place to start revision is to probably sit down with your parent or sit down with someone and to start to create a timetable. List the subjects that you study, that your child studies. List the sections of each subject, so they can be divided up into topics, into units, into themes, whatever it is. And then start to distribute those themes and topics around a timetable. So that's timetables for when your child's at school, timetables for when they are on a Saturday and Sunday at the weekend, and timetables for the holiday periods. Now, I really believe that regardless of how kind of confident your child is with the subject, they will always have that feeling, that daunting feeling, that feeling of worry, that feeling of panic when you come to do that timetable at the first time. Because there's a lot of information that they would have been learning over the last few years. So I suggest getting that feeling of panic out the way so their revision can be much more purposeful. Could I challenge you as parents? Could you sit down with your child tonight, tomorrow, at the weekend, to start to create that timetable, to start to create that list, and get that feeling of panic done so you can move on to purposeful revision? My third tip I've titled Revise, Test and Rest. Now, there's plenty of resources out there to help you with your child's revision. Different subjects have different revision guides. Most of those can be accessed through the school, if not all. So if you or your child are worried about that you don't have the correct revision materials, get your child to come in and speak to the teachers. I can more or less guarantee that we would have those resources available, or we can certainly order those, and we can also support financially with those if needed. Now, it's great getting hold of resources, great getting hold of notebooks and highlighters and post-its and pens, but they're no good left in their packets, nice and shiny under the bed. They won't read themselves, they need to be picked up and need to be used. And a great way to use that is revise, test, rest. Now, we've been kind of using that strategy for our knowledge organisers. So your children have been revising really for the last couple of years. Now, say, for example, you had timetabled in an hour's revision. You might spend 40 minutes, or your child would spend 40 minutes actually learning, actually doing mind maps, flashcards, reading over things, writing diagrams, whatever strategy works for them. And then they would spend 10 minutes testing themselves on that, or maybe better still, to have a parent, a friend, someone who can actually test them on what they've just revised. Then to have a 10-minute rest away from screens, maybe a stretch, a little snack, something to eat, a little bit of a break before starting maybe another hour cycle. Also, please do use exam board websites. Exam board websites aren't hidden. They're out there. The exam boards, AQA, Edexcel, they actually want to help students get the best they can. So go onto those and find out what the course involves, what units, what percentages, what exams and things that they have to do. Tip number 4, I've titled The Body is a Temple. Now, your child is the person that walks into that examination room. Their body, their mind are the things that are going to determine their success. So we need to look after those bodies and minds. Now, of course, we want the mind to be full of revision and full of knowledge and be full of the skills needed for the exams. But a flip of that is also to actually think about how can we look after the body and mind from a more well-being perspective. Healthy food and drink, exercise, breaks, relaxation, plenty of sleep, calm and quiet revision environments, breathing techniques, positivity, controlled screen time, are all essential ingredients to making sure the body and the mind are looked after as a temple. So some screen time is absolutely fine, and controlled screen time can be part of incentives and rewards. Even screens can be used for maths programs or revision, BBC Bitesize, etc. But social screen time can also be a massive distraction. Things like box sets, things like Fortnite, things like different social media platforms can get in the way. And it's really important as a parent that you support in managing that so that it doesn't become a distraction to their revising. Tim Foote, in that book that will be distributed to you, calls it problems with the ping, implying when that phone pings every couple of seconds, it probably feels like all those pings are a distraction and it needs to be controlled. My final tip, tip number 5, I've titled Jack of All Trades. Now, the role of us as teachers, the role of the school, the role of the child as the student, and the role of the parent is really important. We are working together as a triangle to try and get the same outcome, and that is for your child to leave school successfully. Now, parenting, okay, as you all know, involves multiple roles. It involves wearing all sorts of different hats. And as your child moves through the stress of revision and exams, wearing those multiple hats becomes even more important. And you might find that you've got to change that hat to becoming a counsellor, a motivator, a coach, a researcher, a project manager, a chef, an enforcer, a chocolate provider. Whatever it is, all those different roles and that flexibility with those roles are vital for reducing that stress and are a really good way of you recognising what your child needs for their well-being, for their stress, for their support at that different time. So thank you very much for listening to my 5 top tips. I can't think of anything more valuable than investing the thought and the time in how to support Year 10s and 11s through their GCSEs and through their exams. And I'm sure you can't find anything more valuable than supporting them as a parent. So if you do have any queries or questions, please do contact the school. Please, I'm more than happy to speak to people or speak to tutors, speak to heads of year, and they will be happy to support your child through their GCSEs and their revision. So thank you again for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully you found the information during this presentation valuable. Thank you for your time.